Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to Comic Book Nostalgia. I'm CB Nostalgia, and we have a little update on the Avengers from Kevin Feige. Well, I don't really think I'm too alone in saying that a big portion of Marvel Phase 4 has felt, well, a little directionless. And there's been a lot of complaints from fans that most of these stories don't seem to be lining up in the same way they used to in the MCU. Much of this can be blamed on how many movies are coming out and the number of TV shows, but quite honestly, I think this has more to do with the fact that there are several arcs and storylines going on at the same time. Now, typically at this point in a phase, we're leading up to an Avengers movie, and this is almost always where all the pieces start to come together. And obviously, we don't have anything in the form of an Avengers movie until 2024. Now, Kevin Feige has talked to this a little bit, and quite honestly, his answer to it is staggering, because you know what? There are no Avengers. That's right, in the MCU, at this point, the Avengers don't exist. Now, this past weekend we had D23, and Kevin Feige obviously had a lot to say at the convention, and this particular quote caught a lot of people off guard. During the presentation he actually said, "You know, one thing in the Captain America film is that there is currently a world without the Avengers. Sam Wilson finds himself as Cap at a time where there's not an organization of Avengers. But just because there's not an organization of Avengers doesn't mean there's not a group of superheroes in the MCU. Not a group perhaps as the Avengers, but there's a group and they're called the Thunderbolts." Now, I have to say, if I was sitting in on this, it would have caught me off guard. But I do see what he's saying. With Steve Rogers, Tony Stark, and Natasha Romanoff all being out of the equation, it appears the Avengers have, well, disassembled. Now, in Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, it was suggested Earth's Mightiest Heroes might still meet up occasionally, but it does appear officially the group does not exist. And within the constructs of the MCU, the Thunderbolts might be being set up to fill that void. Now, this does catch me off guard a little bit, because quite honestly, the Thunderbolts are a much different group than the Avengers, and not really what I would see as a replacement team. Additionally, this new team seems to be mostly made of super soldiers. There's nobody like a Thor or an Incredible Hulk that's incredibly powerful, and more interestingly, the Thunderbolts typically have a few villains on the squad, and there are none to be seen. Many fans were speculating that the Abomination could be part of this team, and we haven't seen the movie yet, so I suppose it's possible, but he obviously didn't make that first set of initial concept art, so I wonder where he fits in. I have to say, it is a pretty interesting choice from Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios, and one that could point to the team actually stepping in to serve as somewhat of a rival or competitive team to the Avengers once they do return in the Kang Dynasty. Typically, the dark nature of the Thunderbolts drives them into villain territory, and I could totally see a new set of Avengers having to be formed kind of to stand directly against the Thunderbolts or to keep them in check. Now, obviously, the Avengers are not gone forever. We know for a fact Marvel Studios to close out Phase 5 is giving us Avengers the Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars, so the team is coming back. But it appears throughout Phase 5 and most of Phase 6, the MCU is going to continue to exist without Earth's Mightiest Heroes as a team, and that could have pretty wide impacts considering all the storylines in place. Not only do we have Secret Wars coming up, but we may be very well headed into a World War Hulk. With the leader returning in the Captain America movie, it does suggest to me that that particular story, the leader himself, and some of those rumors for who the leader is working with, could absolutely play into the Thunderbolts, and I think that's exactly where they're going. Quite honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the Thunderbolts play a huge role in World War Hulk, and most of them probably will have a hard time standing against gamma-powered characters, suggesting we could lose a few of them in that fight. Now, obviously, everybody wants to know where the Avengers are coming up next, and we're going to try to keep a close eye on that, so make sure you hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss any of the updates. But until we know more, what do you guys think? How do you feel about the Thunderbolts being the primary team in the MCU, at least for a period of time? And how do you think the world has reacted to the fact that there are no more Avengers? Tell me what you think in the comments below. If you like this video, make sure you hit like, click subscribe, and if you don't ring that bell, you won't get any updates. Peace.